What up, guys? I've kind of been wanting to start this open dialogue discussion, talking about like current nutrition health events going on, like for example, this whole RFK, seed oils, food dyes, the whole MAHA movement, or Make America Healthy Again. And I mean, the overall purpose of this talk and again, open discussion forum is to just get people together and have a discussion about all this and talk about all this and get some clarity, because even for me, someone who has devoted their life to nutrition and health and doing things the right way, ethically, morally, and evidence-based, most importantly, right? Like how I feel about a subject, how I feel about a topic, a certain trend, a movement, so to speak. Like I'm putting all my opinions to the side and really looking at everything factually, redoing my research, see what's going on, because in America, the health industry is just straight up corporate America, right? Typical thing, trying to make money off it. There's some collusion with the medical field and doctors prescribing people stuff to keep them on there to get their paycheck, all that dilly-dally. And I'm not saying that there aren't any great doctors out there who actually give a shit about helping you and making you healthy. But for the most part, even firsthand experience myself in the hospital, like there's corruption everywhere, right? Like we're doing the best we can to sift through all that BS, which is the main reason why I'm doing this. Like I want to be that avenue for you to sift through all the BS and be confident that you're making the right choices out there to improve your health, right? And not get caught in these schemes or get instilled fear because RFK is just talking a bunch of numbers and big things that he's probably not even really looking into himself. It's just his team telling him what to say, and then next thing you know, it's just like blown out of proportion and you don't even know where to go now. So like that's honestly probably the first thing I'm gonna get on is I'm gonna watch some of RFK's recent things, especially on the seed oils and the food dyes. Gonna dive into it, do some research, and come back to you guys and give you my thoughts on what I find and what I professionally believe is wrong and correct, and what I personally believe is wrong and correct.
Recall it.
I think I think those vaccines we need to have again true double-blind placebo-controlled trials on that. There's 25% of Americans who believe that they know somebody who was killed by a COVID vaccine. Killed. 25% of Americans, 52% of Americans believe that the vaccines are causing injuries, including death. 52%. Oh, if you look at the clinical trial studies, the actual studies that were done, that were released of the Pfizer vaccine, Moderna has not released it. If you look at the Pfizer vaccine, there were 22,000 people in the placebo group, 22,000 people who got the actual vaccine, and the people who got the vaccine had a 23% higher death rate from all causes at the end of that study.
But that could not be the disease itself?
No, well,
because we know that
if it is, then the vaccine doesn't work, does it?
And see, this is kind of the hardest part, right, about doing your research and finding these interviews, is that depending on where you go, some of this shit may be twisted horribly, which is even going to make it 1,000 times harder to make sure myself or any other person in the health and nutrition field that's doing what I'm doing find the right stuff to correct this. And boy, am I off to a bad start. Like this video title right here, why RFK is right about seed oils. In parentheses, it says, and the media is wrong. like that right away, I'm not gonna watch it because I feel that it's gonna be clipped in nature that it's going to support why RFK is right about seed oils, and then clipped to make the media look wrong. Like, pass. So I just found the full-length interview of RFK Jr.'s update on plans to ban some artificial food dyes. It's currently 1 a.m. So I hope you guys appreciate all that I'm doing to help you. Not just appreciate, but just know I'm really putting in the late hours and really trying to, again, change the views on debating these kind of things together civilly. We all do our due diligence and all come together, really find out if what they're doing is really going to help the next generations in the long run, right? Because I used to weigh 320 pounds. I was obese my whole life until, okay, not whole life, but I was obese for about until I was 18, 19. It wasn't until about 2021 when I really started educating myself on nutrition, on food science, or I'm sorry, not food science, but nutrition science, human physiology, how the gut microbiome works, enzymes, and I continuously educate myself on that stuff. I try to keep up with all the studies that are currently ongoing to further kick the can and make sure that, one, the food that we're eating, at least in an American diet, isn't really killing us or poisoning us as much as people like RFK or Gary Brecka, or like so many other influencers on Instagram are stating our food that we're consuming is doing to us. That's including plastics, heating certain oils to a certain temperature that makes it carcinogen and blah, 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 blah. Like, there's just so much going on. And really, like, my ultimate goal is to bring everyone together to an fair playing field that we can all have an open discussion about this kind of stuff, and then go to, say, the state and fight this shit and make sure that what they're saying they're doing is truly, one, helping the future of the American children, and two, that they're not fucking just doing the whole political BS and marketing schemes and just being like every other typical corporate American health industry company, corporation, yada, 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 and all that nonsense, right? Like, that's my goal. I'm trying to be the catalyst to start something further and start having these conversations that we can have not just comfortably, but because this is not comfortable, right? Like, this is very hard to talk about. And we need to be able to talk about these things civilly and come together as a people, keep our opinions at the door, and really dig into them and make sure they're doing what our taxpayer dollars are going to them to solve our problems, right? That's my whole political moral rant done. I'm trying to download this video. It's like so slow. Hey, Ghost, sponsor me. I drink your stuff non-stop. Yes, I'm asking for a sponsor because I'm not going anywhere and drink this shit like 2-3 times a day. I'll get into a discussion as to why I prefer Ghost over most energy drinks on the market. Really, like, I wish I could show you guys this video. Literally got these two kids holding a sign that says, "Better food, better ingredients." Like, really? Those two kids look like they're no older than they're brothers or brother and sister. I can't really tell. They have the same. They look like twins. So I'm gonna say they're no older than 6 years old. They have no idea why they're holding that sign. They have no idea what any of that means that's on that poster. Oh Lord. I just started the interview. Or speech, whatever. And this first speaker says, "Thank you to all the Maha moms and kids for being here." Red flag for me.
Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obesity, diabetes, insulin resistance, cancer.
I will provide the link to the videos I watch so that you guys can watch it too. I will always do my best to find the full-length, unedited versions. So there's, again, no bias. We're all watching the same thing, hearing the same thing, and can break it down together and really have this open dialogue. And again, do your due diligence. If you don't, I'm going to be researching all the studies they cite, the people they cite, see if there's any industry backing behind any of this. The kind of trials they're doing, are they peer-reviewed, are they meta-analyses, all that stuff, because again, all of that stuff matters when it comes to especially health, is like, who's sponsoring it, who's funding it. It's like it's like cigarettes. They said cigarettes were great for you at one point in time, and now look, leading cause of lung cancer. And I'm eating there's another one I'm going to talk about. Eating rotisserie chicken out of a plastic bag is poisoning you. Like, I will gladly still spend $10 on a 1,500 calorie rotisserie chicken to hit my fucking macros. Don't come after my chicken dog. I'm going to keep this recording as long as I can. It's on my phone. Yeah.
Have associated food colors directly with obesity and diabetes. Obesity, diabetes, insulin resistance. As our commissioner. Today, the FDA is taking action to remove petroleum-based food dyes from the U.S. food supply and from medications. For the last 50 years, American children have increasingly been...
Medications? That's new to me. Gonna be looking into that too.
...living in a toxic soup of synthetic chemicals. The scientific community has conducted a number of studies raising concerns about the correlation between petroleum-based synthetic dyes and several health conditions, such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obesity, diabetes, insulin resistance, cancer, genomic disruption, GI issues, as I've seen in the hospital, and allergic reactions. For example, Governor, Speaker, and the many Maha moms and the kids here supporting the effort, thank you for being here. Thank you. It's great.
Right.
Today, the FDA is taking action to remove petroleum-based food dyes from the U.S. food supply and from medications. For the last 50 years, American children have increasingly been living in a toxic soup of synthetic
Speeding up just a little bit.
chemicals. The scientific community has conducted a number of studies raising concerns about the correlation between petroleum-based synthetic dyes and several health conditions, such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obesity, diabetes, insulin resistance, cancer, genomic disruption, GI issues, as I've seen in the hospital, and allergic reactions. For example, this Lancet study conducted a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled study on food dyes and concluded that artificial colors in the diet, quote, result in increased hyperactivity. So why are we taking a gamble? Parents, moms and dads have also tried to raise attention to the issue. Some parents have observed that these chemicals cause hyperactivity and even aggressive behavior, and that it subsides when the chemicals are removed from the diet of the child, and sometimes even reoccurs when those petroleum-based chemical dyes are reintroduced. As I know from my experience taking care of children as a doctor, you have to always listen to the mom. Other studies have found that artificial colors that create vibrant colors mess with the child's developing brain to make ultra-processed foods more attractive, even when the child already feels full. These studies have associated food colors directly with obesity and diabetes. Well, America's children are sick and suffering. 41% of children have at least one health condition, and 1 in 5 are on medication. The answer is not more Ozempic, more ADHD medication, and more antidepressants. There's a role for those medications, but we have to look at underlying root causes. The F in FDA stands for food. Now, there's no one ingredient that accounts for the child chronic disease epidemic. And let's be honest, taking petroleum-based food dyes out of the food supply is not a silver bullet that will instantly make America's children healthy, but it is one important step. This administration is not interested in continuing down the path of doing the same old things as we watch our nation's children get sicker. We need fresh, new approaches. Cancer and diabetes in young people is going up at an alarming rate, and nobody seems to know why. We have to turn our attention to underlying causes, such as chemicals and toxins that children are exposed to, not just more insulin and chemotherapy. And let's not forget that the best way to lower drug prices is to stop taking drugs we don't need. 30 states concerned about this very issue have introduced bills or laws with a patchwork of standards for food companies. So the food industry, which has many good people, has asked for clarity. So today the FDA is taking the following steps. Number 1, establishing a national standard and timeline for the food industry to transition from petroleum-based food dyes to natural alternatives. Number 2, initiating a process to revoke authorization of synthetic food colorings, including those not in production, namely citrus red number 2 and orange B, within the coming weeks. Number 3, taking steps to eliminate the remaining 6 synthetic dyes on the market from the U.S. food supply, specifically red dye number 40.
Okay.
The rest of the crew here to fight the good fight.
So far, the speakers that have come up, of course, are all clearly pushing an agenda, but they're instilling fear in how they're talking, and they're not really giving any information on exactly what they're doing about this problem. It's more so they're just speaking angrily, like their 3-year-old just got into the cookie jar and ate all the cookies. Like, no solution stated except for, of course, banning these, but really nothing talked about the system in place to ensure these companies are regulated to remove the so far approved food dyes and additives that have been banned, and really a timeline on when that's going to be finished. Because remember, all because they're banned now doesn't mean that the companies are doing it right now tonight to take it out of their product. It's going to take time. And that's my biggest concern is, if you're doing all this, what's the end game? Or I'm sorry, like when's the end of the timeline? What year do you expect to have all of these new banned food dyes and additives out of products in the American food industry? That's my biggest question so far.
Science. It's time, and it is time. It's happening that the FDA and HHS is demanding full transparency, independent review, and science-based safety standards for every substance added to our food. Americans deserve a food system that protects their health and not corporate interests. Thank you.
And we deserve a medical industry that does not pry on health issues and prescribe a shit ton of pills for people to take that doesn't really improve their health.
In the U.S. government, the largest budget for any department of any government in the history of human civilization is this building.
Contained substances banned in Europe allowed here. No doctor should watch their patients struggle with chronic illness type.
I've also done a research paper on the EU food system versus the USA food system. And they cite the EU so much but I don't really think they know why they have these already banned before us, and why they, let alone the extensive process of testing the EU food system does. Yeah, so again, it's just all jibber jabber to me right so far.
Department in the U.S. government. The largest budget for any department of any government in the history of human civilization is this building. And 90% of that spending is because we are poisoning our population with chronic disease. 90% of the spending from this building, and the spending from this building is 5 times what it is in Spain per capita, 4 times what it is in Italy. It is because we are poisoning our children. And 2 words are ringing out around the world.
I am so sick of hearing poisoning now. They are, again, this whole interview is just fear mongering.
From this building today, and those 2 words are common sense. I have had countless meetings with the food industry. They've talked to the media about this. They lecture us about not being scientifically rigorous on these policies with food dyes. Well, let's think about what that study would actually entail. A peer-reviewed...
I'm trying so hard not to be biased, or nitpicky, but this is coming from someone who, again, was still eating all these so-called poisonous foods now, and still lost all my weight. I had about 3 of those markers out of like 7 or 6 they listed. I had half of those: obesity, ADHD, and pre-type 2 diabetes.
Placebo-controlled study would involve giving these children shots of crude oil every single day for years and seeing what happens. When a study itself that the industry is telling us to do is on its face unethical, we clearly have a problem. This is also a day where the cries and the shouts and the applause from Baja Moms during the campaign are ringing out across the country. Look at what we have here today. We have people like Dr. Mark Hyman, who've been fighting this and talking about the real science for decades. We have Vani Hari, who's been advocating, shouting into the darkness for years on this issue. We have Maha Moms, we have children. They gave President Trump and Secretary Kennedy a sword during this campaign. Secretary Kennedy and President Trump are walking with the Maha Moms behind them. And what's happening today, and I have a plea for the media, let's not cover this cynically. This is a major win. This is a major win among grassroots forces against special interests. These are things, as you know, the industry has been fighting for years and years and years. These are things that a year or 2 years ago would have been absolutely out of the question, never have happened. This is a major, major win. And I have a plea also, quite candidly, for Democrats. I've met with Cory Booker. I've met with a lot of people that care about this issue. Where are you? Come to HHS, come to the FDA, and work with this administration on these unimpeachable issues. This is our children's lives at stake. We are poisoning our children. This is a monumental day of turning the tides in this country. And I just want to introduce the Speaker of the Utah House and recognize the incredible state leadership, 25 states around the country, inspired by Secretary Kennedy, inspired by President Trump, who've passed MAHA bills and given the leverage for the federal government to be here today. So I want to introduce Speaker Mike Schultz.
Good afternoon. I'd like to start by giving a shout out to my colleagues in the Utah House of Representatives and the Utah Senate, 10 of which came to be here with us today. Thank you. Because you see, real change doesn't happen easy. It happens because people are willing to do the hard things, to make the tough calls, and to put our kids first, and Americans first. Whether it's banning soda from SNAP purchases, or getting ultra-processed foods out of our school lunches, or removing fluoride from our drinking water, Utah leads and Utah has taken action. This year, we passed a ban on dangerous chemicals and synthetic dyes in school lunches. In fact, one of our largest school districts has been doing this for 3 years already, showing that we can provide a healthy environment for our kids without overburdening our schools and our school systems. These decisions aren't easy, and they're not always popular. But the mark of leadership is doing the right thing, even when it's hard. Secretary Kennedy can attest to that. While we're proud of the work we've done, we know that this fight isn't over. And it's not won in a single session, a single bill, or by a single state. It takes collaborative, sweeping approach to bring people together, local, state, and federal governments, all pulling in the same direction. That's why we're grateful for the growing partnership between the Utah legislature and the Department of Health and Human Services. It's the kind of collaboration that gets things done and moves the ball forward. We appreciate the support, and we really respect the leadership in this room, especially Secretary Kennedy. And we're excited to keep the ball moving and to keep things going. Let's make America healthy again, because our kids deserve better. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you today.
This interview, by the way, was 5-6 days ago, so very recent.
Start out and thank the Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy, for his vision and for all the amazing work that he and his team have done in just a very short period of time. I'm grateful to be here with the Secretary and with the FDA Commissioner, Dr. McCary, and also I'm personally appreciative that President Trump had the good sense to pick these wonderful people. They're doing an amazing job making America healthy again. I also look around this room, and I see a lot of leaders of the MAHA movement and their mission of making their states and their country healthy again. And I know there are some people here from West Virginia, some of our leaders who really led the way for the recent legislation, which maybe had something small to do with why we're here today. So Senator Barrett and Senator Chapman and there are a couple other folks here, I'm just grateful for your leadership on the ground, because when we win on all these issues, we win as a team, and we have a great team here today. Now, when we think about the MAHA movement, we think about how we can make Americans happier, healthier, and living more purposeful lives. At the end of the day, this is an opportunity for everyone to live a little bit longer, spend more time with purpose, and with friends and loved ones. In West Virginia, just last month, we launched what I call the 4 pillars of a healthy West Virginia. That's to reverse some of the negative healthcare outcomes that have plagued our state for far too long. Pillar 1, big part of why we're here today, it's cleaning up our food. For America's children, RFK Jr.
Thank you, Governor Morrissey. Thank you to Speaker Schultz. Thank you to Dr. Mark Hyman, who's been my friend and partner on these issues for over 20 years. Thanks, Vonnie Harry, who's been an extraordinary leader. And then Marty McCary, I'm so grateful that you agreed to join the administration. And Jay Bhattacharya, will you guys come up here and stand behind me? We have an amazing team at HHS. When my uncle was president in the 1960s, we had the healthiest people in the world. And one of the basic assumptions of our country was that because we were robust people, because we were vigorous, because we were tough, we had what my uncle called this beef jerky toughness. That was responsible for our country being the land of the brave and the home of the free, the greatest industrial power in the world, the wealthiest country. We owned half the wealth on earth when my uncle was president, and part of that was because of the vigor of our society. And that's one of the reasons he started the Presidential Council on Physical Fitness, because he saw that he felt that Americans were getting soft and was going to steal from us and erode all of our leadership, our moral authority, and our values, and our role as an exemplary nation. And since his death, we've had this extraordinary chronic disease epidemic. When my uncle was president, 3% of American kids had chronic disease. Today, it's around 60%. And these are a broad category, the ones that Marty mentioned, like ADHD, neurological disorders, ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, tics, Tourette syndrome, narcolepsy, ASD, and autism. All of these are injuries that I never heard of when I was a kid. They were not part of the nomenclature. They weren't part of the dialogue. There was zero spent in this country treating chronic disease when my uncle was president. Today, it's about $1.8 trillion annually. It's bankrupting our nation. 74% of American kids cannot qualify for military service. Well, how are we going to maintain our global leadership with such a sick population? We have all these autoimmune diseases, these exotic diseases. Again, I never heard of juvenile diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Crohn's disease, and 100 others that were just unknown when I was a kid. I never knew
to automatically go against that, that's because as these foods have been released to the public, American public, some of these diseases have sprung up, or I would say been created. Or two, most of what he just stated for these diseases, medical conditions, are genetic. So please don't take what he just said in account that these food dyes and additives are the cause of all these medical conditions, most of which I would say in any upcoming generation when new things are introduced, new illnesses are going to come to be. But yeah, that was just, again, fear-mongering right there.
They want to add petroleum. They want to eat petroleum. They ought to add it themselves at home. But they shouldn't be feeding it to the rest of us. And without our knowledge.
Yeah, because Billy and Sally want to go to their fucking pantry and be like, oh, look, Mama and Papa, I'm going to add petroleum to my pancakes.
Addressed. One of the problems is that the industry, which all of these industries, cast a dark shadow historically over this agency. And there's so many conflicts that we are now systematically eliminating. That has allowed them to suppress the science. There's shockingly few studies, even on food dyes, and on all these other ingredients as well. And Jay Bhattacharya, who is here and was running the director of NIH, is now narrowly targeting these kind of food additives for scientific study. So that one by one we can start eliminating them where they can. Where we can't, there's things that we'll never be able to eliminate, like sugar. And sugar is poison. And Americans need to know that. It is poison.
Sugar is not fucking poison. Yeah, that triggered me.
Is giving us a diabetes crisis. When I was a kid, I always say this, the typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his lifetime. Today, it's 1 out of every 3 kids who walks through his office door. In our most recent study from NIH, 38% of American teens, half our adult population. This is existential. We are spending as much on mitochondrial disorders like diabetes as we spend on our military budget. We can't continue to exist like this. And
for the record, he doesn't really specifically say which type of diabetes he's talking about, but I'm more on the side that he's talking about type 2 diabetes, which is brought on through poor lifestyle choices. Type 1 is genetic. You are born with it. It will never go away. Again, fear-mongering as fuck.
And the problem is industry is making money on keeping us sick. As Jay pointed out, ADHD is associated with all these behavioral disorders. But those disorders are treated not by changing our diet, but providing medications to treat our kids. And they get medicated, and that's the only solution. And, I would point out that there is part of the etiology of these diseases is a kind of media malpractice. Mass psychosis that has our media not talking about this. And one of the possible reasons for that is the amount of money that's coming from the pharmaceutical companies into our media and from these food companies for the advertising. And the advertising has at least plays a factor. That revenue, that extraordinary revenue stream, in disabling their capacity or their inclination for skepticism and for critical thinking. So Americans don't know what they're eating, and they don't know the implications of those things. And for those products, Mark Hyman says in his book, the 10-Day Sugar Detox Diet, which I'll give a plug to, is a very good book. He talks about how dangerous sugar is and how it's as addictive as crack. And our children are addicted to it from when they're little kids. Our agency recommends, I think, a huge amount of sugar for kids from when they're born. And it's hurting them, and it's addicting them, and it's changing their taste buds so that they crave it. And it's disabling our population. So for those ingredients that we can't ban legally, we're going to start informing Americans about what they're eating. We're going to try to work with Congress and the White House, make sure that we have adequate labeling so mothers who go into the grocery stores know what is good for their children and what is not. I want to say one other thing about the moms. When I went and spoke for the first time, when I met with the heads of all the food industry companies, one of the things that said to us is that the worst thing for us is if we have a patchwork of legislation in all these different states, because then we're not capable of marketing nationally distributed products. So we're going to have different regulations in every state.
Just how you're marketing mothers and their children for your movement? Right.
And they didn't want that, and that's one of the reasons they came to the table with us. I want to thank Speaker Schultz. I want to thank Governor Morrissey, and I visited many other governors in Virginia and West Virginia, in Arizona, and Utah, and other states that are banned, that are having these local bans. Those bans have given us leverage to make demands on the food company, and the only reason that those states have banned these products is because of these ladies and millions of more across the country, the warrior moms who have powered the mom movement.
And look, I'm not trying to be a dick on moms and children at all. It's just how the movement is using and quote unquote marketing mothers and their children. That's very upsetting.
I just want to urge all of you, it's not the time to stop. It's the time to redouble your efforts, because we have them on the run now, and we are going to win this battle. And 4 years from now, we're going to have most of these products off the market, or you will know about them when you go in the grocery store. So I want to thank you. And finally, and most importantly, I want to thank President Trump. President Trump often, says that he's going to make America great again. But he knows that he cannot make our country great again if our country is weak, if we're not healthy, if we don't have vigor, if we're not a robust people. He says that he's going to restore the American dream, that a healthy person has 1,000 dreams. The sick person only has one. And right now, there's 60% of the people in this country who have only one dream. If they can make it through a day without pain, with energy, without having to take medications. And we are going to change that for our country. And I want to thank the moms and thank President Trump for his confidence in my leadership and for allowing me to surround myself with such an extraordinary team of scientists who are going to restore transparency to this agency. We're going to do replicated science.
Okay, so I just watched the whole interview update and did my digging and my research. And I'm going to break down everything I found on the sources they cited to back their claims. I broke it down based on, was it peer reviewed? How, to the extent, was it peer reviewed? Who was sponsoring these studies? And really dig down deeper what these studies specifically studied, because they just glazed over everything. They just cherry picked to fit their narrative. So I'm gonna first start with the sources they cited, the studies they cited, and start from there, right? So the studies they cited or study, there's a couple other studies I looked up that the movement specifically is using to back their claims. The one that is stated in the interview is peer-reviewed, it's publicly funded, and they found that synthetic dyes combined with preservatives increased hyperactivity in children. All right, but what they did not include was that this is in the event of already sensitive children, meaning that they already have medical conditions with hyperactivity, right? So yeah, so a child with hyperactivity already consuming these food dyes and preservatives is going to increase their hyperactivity. So yeah, you're gonna want to be sure your children are not consuming these foods, whether it be small or large quantities, especially large quantities, right? Because it's gonna make it worse in them, right? I'm looking like at the phone when I should be looking at the camera. Sorry guys. Sorry if I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at you, all right? But yeah, so And that's the thing with all these studies, right? All these studies that I found, which again, I'm gonna link this. I'm gonna provide the links to my YouTube channel, because I'm gonna start posting this on YouTube. I don't even know what the title is. It's just open dialogue again, because I want people to be commenting on this, watch my video, watch what I just watched, and see if you find something different from me. By all means, and if I'm wrong, I will stand corrected and call myself out. Because again, my goal is to ultimately have a civil conversation where we're all involved and trying to find things to make sure that they are on the right path and what they're stating is true in this moment, right? Because studies are going to evolve, yada, 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 I digress. So yeah, the common thing with these studies is that they are all based on children with sensitivities already, meaning they have some form of hyperactivity medical condition. I don't want to say disorder, or I'm not a doctor, so I'm not really versed in the terms to properly use. So I'm going to say medical conditions of hyperactivity. These are the sensitive children they're speaking about. So yeah, they found that there was an uptick in hyperactivity when these foods were consumed. And again, the study they cited, it was partially peer-reviewed. All right, so that is kind of tough to follow, and it is currently the most recent study that has been conducted, which was in 2021. So 4 years ago, give or take, 3.5 years, let's just say. The only fully peer-reviewed journal on this topic is by Nigg et al. Careful with that. Nigg, N-I-G-G, et al., 2012, so 13 years ago. And the conclusion was there are small but real effects on the ADHD symptoms. Again, these are with children who have hyperactivity disorders already, medical conditions. The other studies listed, such as the FDA's review or the CSPI report in 2010, there's no internal documents, no peer-reviewed journals on these whatsoever. And some of these were funded by the U.S. government. So one was funded by the U.S. government. The other was funded by a nonprofit, a private nonprofit. So these ones are kind of hard to trust based on the funding source, right? Because the narrative, the agenda, all that stuff. You can't trust the U.S. government either, just as much as you can't trust Coca-Cola backing one of these studies, which, in fact, Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola have backed a couple of these studies that state there is no harm. Stay away from those. So yeah, overall, if your child is diagnosed with any hyperactivity medical condition, limit their consumption of these foods and drinks with food dyes and additives, right? I mean, I don't really know if I'm going to dive into the obesity side of things, because for me personally and professionally, the dose makes the poison, right? Firsthand, if you continue consume, you're going to gain weight regardless of the food dyes and preservatives and additives that are in these things, right? Which are going to cause a whole bunch of health issues down the road for the longer you consume them. But then again, if eaten in moderation and knowing your, let's just say, calorie means, you can still enjoy these foods, because ultimately all these food dyes and preservatives do, that they all talk about, is just make them tastier. So yeah, you're going to be more addicted to them because they're tasty. And that's where you as an individual need to learn self-control. So it's a habitual thing. Learning your habits, learning when to say stop or no. And also as a parent or guardian of a child, knowing when to stop your child, knowing that they're going to want more. Hell, I mean, I think we've all been there as a kid that we like something tasty, we're going to naturally want more of it. We're kids, we don't know better. Be the leader, because if you want your child to be healthier and better in life, it starts with you. You're the leader. it's your leadership that's going to trickle down to your kids, and so on and so forth. So be the example, educate them, teach them, sit down together, do this kind of stuff with them. Like, kids today have such an upper hand with technology. Like, when I was even 16 trying to learn this stuff, and the computer is still relatively, I mean, in my opinion, new, and the internet, trying to find valid information was very difficult. And then when Instagram came out, like, holy smokes, influencers, that really made things worse for me, man. Like, believing people because they had the body I dreamed of. They didn't know shit. So, that's that on the studies. I hope that helps shine some light, helps give you, the viewer, who is either just starting their health journey or is looking for the right outlet to be put on the right path to not just help themselves but help your kid or the child that you're looking after, or help someone else's child, like whatever the case may be. Like, even if it's just helping yourself first. I hope that this is helping out. I hope this helps out a lot. Again, all the links will be on YouTube description for you to look at these studies, watch the interview if you care to do so. Because again, this is what I'm here for. Do all this for you. And leaving all my bias out of it. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I want you to have the tools to make the best decision for you. Something I didn't have growing up. And which is one of my huge inspirations for doing all this, is helping you get through all those hurdles much quicker than me, or even eliminating some of these hurdles that are going to set you back 10, 15 steps, you know, like, yeah, my ultimate goal is just to help you keep moving forward and shine light on as much truth as possible and get all the BS out of here, because at the end of the day, corporate America will always be there. So be careful. Even if it is RFK. Like, I switched stances on RFK. I'll say this right now. When the presidential election was going on and he got announced for it and he was doing this whole Maha movement stuff, I was rallying for it. I was like, yes, let's go. But now that we're diving into it and it's actually happening and just seeing these results so far, I'm not really Team RFK anymore. Like, I don't trust this guy. I don't trust his team. To me, it seems like there's a lot of behind the scenes sponsoring by corporations that are running him. And the dude's getting paid, man. He's getting a check. Like, it is what it is. There's nothing more we can't fight that. Like, we have what we have now. So we gotta stick together and, again, have these open dialogues and forums to all come to a good conclusion. If there's a majority that says that this is wrong, we then need to move forward by getting in there and changing this. Yeah, I think that's it for this. And, you know, I just wanted to share this with you guys and continue to share this forward, because, again, growing up, I struggled with behavioral issues. I struggled with food addiction. And even cutting out these processed foods and artificial additives, anything of that nature, like, I can advocate that the dose makes the poison. But you need to have the basic understanding of how this all works. Or have a coach like me by your side to guide you through it and teach you and help you build your foundation. And I'm going to stay updated on all this going on again, and I'll be coming out as often as I can with videos and breakdowns of all this stuff. If there's anything you guys find out there, drop it in the comments below, and I promise I'll get to it as fast as I can and let you guys know what I think professionally and personally, and continue to help you guys get to the truth. See you guys later.